If Gonzalo is convicted twice, he could face two separate sentences. One sentence of 5 years and an additional sentence of 8 years that will end up adding up to 13 years in prison. Now,
The Facts Hunter.
hello everyone. This is a Facts Hunter, and today I'm going through Gonzalo Lira's court documents from the court hearing that took place on December 22nd of 2023. The court documents for Gonzalo's court hearing were released on the early hours of December 25th. There were several documents released, but they all belong to the same file, and for what we understand, according to Gonzalo Lira Sr., the hearing lasted about 5 hours. So instead of having a big, long file, they separated the files into several sets of documents. The first set of documents is to establish that the hearing took place via remote video conference. The judge was present at the courthouse while Gonzalo's lawyer was present at the detention center because Gonzalo was being treated for his case of pneumonia at the medical ward of the detention center. The second set of documents is the main subject of the court hearing, and is the part where I believe those 5 hours were spent. This is the meat and potatoes of the main course. This is the case against Gonzalo. Basically, this is the section where the accusations against Gonzalo are talked about. He is being charged with 2 separate charges. In this section, Gonzalo's defense lawyer tries to appeal the charges against Gonzalo. I mean, the guy is doing his job. He's there to defend Gonzalo. It's a dirty job, but somebody has to do it. And he also tries to convince the judge that Gonzalo is not a repeat offender and requests leniency, possibly trying to get Gonzalo out of detention jail. I'm gonna go more into detail into this section later, but in the meantime, I need to explain the purpose of the third set of documents. The third set of documents were previously filed on December 12, 2023. This document introduced a lawyer of name Claude Nicati, who is a member of the Neuchâtel Bar Association in Switzerland. This lawyer is basically there representing the International Criminal Court in The Hague, and is basically there to work as a translator, making sure Gonzalo is being given the properly translated accounts of the court's decisions. And it is established that this is done because Gonzalo doesn't speak Ukrainian. This is not surprising given that Gonzalo Lira has a 3-year bachelor's degree in liberal arts. In other words, he's too stupid and undisciplined to learn another language outside of English, and his poor excuse of the use of the Spanish language. Believe me, some viewers might complain about my accent, but Gonzalo's Spanish is 10 times worse than my English. This is why he failed university in Chile. He's too retarded to use Spanish or to learn Ukrainian. But I digress. Moving on. As I already mentioned, the first set of documents is to establish the legitimacy of the video remote conference. And the main reason for the video conference was because Gonzalo had pneumonia and couldn't be present. The third set of documents talks about the international court lawyer and why he is present. So, for the sake of time, I'm gonna skip these 2 sections. The link of the documents is down below on the descriptions, so feel free to check them out yourselves if you feel inclined to. But they don't really show anything else of interest. So let's jump into the main section. On the main section of the court documents, the first part that comes to my attention is the following. On December 22nd, 2023, at the court hearing, the prosecutor submitted a motion to extend the preventive measures in the form of detention for a period of 60 days without setting bail. The petition is based on the fact that person_7, which is Gonzalo Lira, is accused of committing a criminal offense, a crime provided for Part 2 of Article 436-2 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine. That is, in the production and distribution of materials containing justification, recognition as legitimate denial of the armed aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine, launched in 2014, as well as justification, recognition of the lawful temporary occupation of a part of the territory of Ukraine, and in the commission of criminal offense. The second crime is Part 3 of Article 436-2 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine, i.e., in the production and dissemination of materials containing justification, recognition as legitimate denial of the armed aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine, which began in 2014, including by presenting the armed aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine as an internal civil conflict, justification, recognition of the lawful temporary occupation of a part of the territory of Ukraine, as well as justification, recognition of the lawful temporary occupation of a part of the territory of Ukraine, glorification of persons who carry out the armed aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine, which began in 2014, committed repeatedly. Now, these two charges seem similar because this is Gonzalo basically defending the invasion of Russia into Ukraine with his videos. But the second section has two key arguments that are important. These are presenting the armed aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine as an internal civil conflict, justification, and the glorification of persons who carry out the armed aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine. These are basically Gonzalo claiming that the Ukrainian people wanted to join Russia and that the Russian forces were not invaders but liberators. These are basically Putin's words spoken by Gonzalo. This is Russian propaganda, which is a crime under martial law in Ukraine. People need to stop making stupid claims about freedom of speech. Ukraine is at war, and they have the right to enforce laws that restrain the promotion of Russian propaganda. Don't be stupid, and stop thinking that Ukraine is oppressing freedom of speech. They are at war, people. Okay, so moving on, a few paragraphs down below, we find a section where the court acknowledges the presence of the doctor treating Gonzalo. Present at the court session, the doctor of the Kharkiv City Medical Unit number 27 of the state institution, quote, Center of Health Care of the DKVS Ukraine, end of quote, branch in the Kharkiv and Luhansk region, person _9, in response to the court's clarifying question regarding the state of health of the accused, stated that the doctors of the medical unit conducted a medical examination of the accused, diagnosed, quote, pneumonia, bilateral pneumonia, end of quote. The accused is provided with necessary and sufficient medical assistance, specialist supervision, and treatment. The state of health of the accused is unsatisfactory, but it does not prevent the holding of the court session. There are no threats to the accused's life. The accused does not need to be hospitalized. The conditions of the medical part of the pre-trial detention center are adequate and capable of providing the necessary and sufficient treatment of the accused. Now, this next section is the part where Gonzalo's lawyer is trying to make the argument that Gonzalo is not a repeat offender and that he should be granted house arrest by getting him out of detention jail where he is being held right now. Gonzalo's lawyer also requested for the judge to take in consideration the health state of Gonzalo, basically pleading for the judge to have mercy on Gonzalo. The prosecutor shut down the request for house arrest by claiming that, quote, in accordance with Part 1 and 3 of Article 331 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine, during the trial, the court, at the request of the prosecution of the defense, has the right to change, cancel, choose, or extend the preventive measure against the accused, basically claiming that the court has the right to hold Gonzalo while he is being investigated, so the house arrest request is straight out denied. And the prosecutor goes on to explain, quote, choosing the term of the preventive measure in the form of detention. The investigating judge took into account that person underscore 7 might hide from the authorities or the pre-trial investigation of the court, destroy, hide, or distort any of the things or documents that are of significant importance for establishing the circumstances of the criminal offense, commit another criminal offense, end of quote. Yeah, the court doesn't want to let Gonzalo out because he could try to hide and or destroy any evidence that could be used against him. Now, the next few paragraphs are the part where Gonzalo pretty much screwed up himself, because they are the parts where the court goes on to explain that Gonzalo has already tried to escape by trying to cross the border into Hungary. So they give a recount of everything that happened when Gonzalo was released on bail back in May of early this year. So they give a recount of everything that happened when Gonzalo was released on bail. They recall the time he drove his motorcycle to the border, breaking court's orders of not leaving the city of Kharkiv without authorization. Now, this next section is important to mention, and is the part that really caught my interest. Quote, according to Clause 4, Part 2 of Article 183 of the Criminal Procedure Code of Ukraine, preventive measure in the form of detention cannot be applied except to a previously unconvicted person who is suspected of or accused of committing a crime for which the law provides for a punishment of imprisonment for a term of more than 5 years. Lira Osoba _8 is accused of committing a minor and a serious crime, punishable by imprisonment for a term of up to 5 years and imprisonment for a term of 5 to 8 years. End of quote. Basically, Gonzalo is being charged with 2 separate crimes. One carries a sentence of up to 5 years, and the second crime carries from 5 to 8 years. If Gonzalo is convicted twice, he could face 2 separate sentences. One sentence of 5 years and an additional sentence of 8 years that will end up adding up to 13 years in prison. Now, on the next paragraphs, the court explains that Gonzalo will not be released anymore before his trial because he is a flight risk. The explanation is as follows. Quote, the court established that person _7 is married but is in the process of divorce, has 2 minor children from 2014 and 2015, is officially unemployed, is not registered with a psychiatrist or psychologist, has no disabilities, any movable or immovable property in the territory of Ukraine, or he has no other state. He lives in Kharkiv in an apartment that belongs to him with the right to use. He has been living in Ukraine since 2017. The children are citizens of Ukraine. They live with their mother in Uzhhorod. The awareness of the probability of a person's guilty plea to a charge brought against him and the pressure of the burden of possible punishment are circumstances that indicate the existence of a risk of hiding from the court and the grounds for the application and continuation of a preventive measure in the form of detention. Now, this next part is directed to all the shitheads who still want to use the argument that Ukraine is run by Nazis. Now, pay attention, you dumbasses. According to Article 7 and 9 of the Criminal Procedure Code of Ukraine, the Criminal Procedure procedural legislation of Ukraine is applied taking into account the practice of the European Court of Human Rights. In the decision of the case, quote, W versus Switzerland, end of quote, dated January 26, 1993, the European Court of Human Rights indicate that taking into account the gravity of the crime has its rational meaning, since it indicates the degree of social danger of this person and allows to predict with a sufficiently high degree of probability his behavior, taking into account that the future conviction for a serious crime increases the risk that the suspect/accused might evade investigation. According to the practice of the European Court of Human Rights, the seriousness of the accusations is not an independent reason for keeping a person in custody, but such an accusation in combination with other circumstances increases the risk of escape to such an extent that it cannot be averted without taking the person into custody. In the case, quote, Ilikov versus Bulgari, end of quote, number 33977/96 of July 26, 2001, the European Court of Human Rights noted that, quote, the severity of the prescribed punishment is an essential element in assessing the risk of concealment or repeated commission of crimes, end of quote. In addition, the European Court of Human Rights has repeatedly emphasized that the existence of grounds for detaining a person in custody must be assessed in each criminal proceeding, taking into account the specific circumstances. Taking into account the identity of the accused person under 7, the severity of the punishment that he faces in case of his conviction, the absence of an official source of income and any property on the rights of ownership, the presence of two citizenships of other countries, other circumstances of the criminal proceedings, the court comes to the conclusion that at this stage of the criminal proceedings, the risk of the accused taking the actions provided for in Clause 1 and 5, Part 1 of Article 177 of the Criminal Procedure Code of Ukraine, which were the basis for selecting the preventive measure in the form of detention in relation to the accused at the stage of pre-trial investigation, and which were referred to by the prosecutor in the request to extend the preventive measure in the form of detention, did not decrease, nor did any of the other milder preventive measures unable to prevent them. Considering the fact that the accused has a passport of a U.S. citizen and a passport of a citizen of the Republic of Chile, the presence of dual citizenship and the passports significantly expands the person's ability to hide abroad in different countries of the world in order to evade criminal responsibility. In addition, the court considers that the risk of concealment from the authorities of the pre-trial investigation of the court is proven, because after the accused made bail, he violated the conditions of the bail and made an attempt to cross the border. Now, people, listen, to anybody out there who might be stupid enough to follow shitheads like the Duran, this is important. The argument that the dumbass Alex Cristoforo made, claiming that Ukraine has the right to deport Gonzalo Lira, is a stupid argument.
All it would take is for the United States, the State Department, to make one phone call, 1 minute, and Gonzalo would be deported. Kick him out of Ukraine. That's what the government should do.
It's a stupid argument because the court documents state the following. According to the practice of the European Court of Human Rights, the court with its decision must ensure not only the rights of the accused, but also high standards of protection of general societal rights and interests, ensuring such standards as emphasized by the European Court of Human Rights requires the court to be more strict in assessing violations of society's values. Let me explain this to all of you Putin fanboys out there. The International Criminal Court issued a warrant for the arrest of Russian President Vladimir Putin over Ukraine war crimes. Gonzalo Lira is promoting propaganda created by Putin, a criminal, to destabilize the West from the inside. If Putin is considered a criminal, Gonzalo Lira can be considered an accomplice of a criminal, an accomplice of Putin, because he is spreading his narrative. The European Court of Human Rights considers Gonzalo's actions to be a threat to European society's values. President Biden will have to jump hoops and loops to get Gonzalo deported back to America because doing so will go against European high standards of protection of general societal rights and interests. The war in Ukraine is not just Russia versus Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is a war between Putin and the West. Gonzalo Lira is considered by the European Union to be a risk to European societal safety. Russian propaganda is a cancer. Putin is a war criminal. And every YouTuber out there, from the Duran to the George Galloway and even that scumbag Clayton Morris, are parasites. Putin lackeys. Gonzalo Lira is in deep shit. He's not gonna set foot on free soil for a long time. It's not gonna be 5 years. At least he'll get 10 years from 2 separate convictions. And that is if the court is lenient on the second conviction and if it's reduced from 8 to 5 years. But given his defiant and entitled attitude, Gonzalo is not winning the sympathy of the court anytime soon. All those words of bravery and self-righteous entitlement he was boasting on his roundtable videos, yeah, the guy is a victim of his own stupidity. Gonzalo was born into a wealthy family who got rich from their ancestors, and now reality has finally caught up to them. Welcome to the jungle, baby. He was living a life of privilege, but now the protection from all that wealth is gone. It means nothing. Gonzalo fucked around and found out. Gonzalo's detention in jail has been extended 60 more days, but that all seems irrelevant now. Gonzalo is facing a long time in prison. The case against him is solid, and the entire West is against him. Hell, even Elon Musk is been fighting the European laws on his business dealings with Twitter, now called X, and Tesla. He can't do shit against the entire European Union when it comes to his own business. Elon Musk won't be able to do shit on behalf of Gonzalo Lira. So yeah, it sucks to be him. It sucks to be Gonzalo Lira, and all of his fans can forget the idea of ever watching another video from his idol. Not anytime soon, baby. Bye-bye, Gonzalo Lira. A minimum of 10 years in a labor camp. He is really done for it. Oh well. A new year is coming, and this channel is gonna start focusing on making pro-Ukrainian videos in the new year of 2024. I'll be making some Gonzalo Lira videos telling the stories of his shady past, but I'll be posting them possibly once a month. I'll do my best to make them interesting and informative with good quality. But in order to satisfy the algorithm, I'll be posting more pro-Ukrainian content than anything else. I will probably lose some followers, but I don't care. I'm against Putin and I'm pro-West, so changing content is probably gonna hurt my views, but I don't care. I'm a facts hunter, and Russian propaganda is my enemy. Slava Ukraini, this is a facts hunter. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye for now, and take care.